Hey guys, it's Randall again, back with you to share some thoughts on week 4 of the NFL. I'm going to go over every game as well as give you some player props to look at for those of you that like to bet on those. Starting with the first game here, I'm going to go with the Giants game and the Saints game. The Saints are returning home to the Dome for the first time since the hurricane um, happened prior to the start of the season. They were supposed to play the Packers in the home opener. That game was moved to Jacksonville, and then they played at Carolina and at New England. So they're back home in this game. You can definitely expect a full house tomorrow in the Dome. The players are definitely going to be fired up. But as a Saints fan, over the years, this seems to be a game that the Saints find a way to lose or make it a lot closer than it probably should be. The Giants have been, you know, I wouldn't say atrocious this year, but they've had some games that they probably should have won, with that being Washington and Atlanta, and they found a way to lose both of those. So, um, it's hard to take the Giants in this spot, but I'm going to make a case for them as we talk about this game. So, like I said, one thing you can't handicap is human emotion in this game. Um, you know, I don't think that this will be like the return to the Dome after Hurricane Katrina back in 2006. That was much different than this is, and the players are going to be fired up. But for whatever reason, the New York Giants since 2018 are 19-6 against the spread on the road. So they're just a much better team on the road than they are at home for whatever reason. And it's hard to go to battle with the clapper, Jason Garrett calling the offensive plays. He was horrible when he was in Dallas, and the Giants' offense has not looked great outside of that game against Washington this year. Um, but if there's one thing I've noticed over the years, as a Saints fan, Sean Payton struggles with mobile quarterbacks, and Daniel Jones fits this mold. Last year, the Saints played the Eagles. I believe it was in Week 14, and Jalen Hurts actually got the start that game, and the Saints didn't have a lot of time to prepare for him. And Daniel Jones is no Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, but he does have the ability to run. And in looking at this game last year, you can see Jalen Hurts had 18 carries for 106 yards. Sanders had 14 for 115. But in looking, just like I said, at the quarterback, 18 carries, 106 yards. Now, I don't expect Jones to carry the ball 18 times, but if the run's there, he will look to run kind of like he did in Washington, I think. So this game, for whatever reason, really reminds me of the playoff game a couple of years ago when the Saints played the Vikings and they were 9.5 point um, favorites in that game, and the whole world was on New Orleans. They had them penciled into the NFC Championship game, and no one gave the Vikings a chance. And like I said, as a Saints fan, I actually bet the Vikings plus the 9.5 in that spot, and they ended up winning outright. And I just think that the Giants are capable of doing the same. I think with the media, there's a lot of hype surrounding New Orleans, going back home for the first time since Hurricane Ida. But I think that that's just a little bit overblown. And like I said, with the historical record of the Giants on the road and kind of the overblown media angle of the Hurricane, I really like the Giants in this spot. This game opened up around New Orleans -8, I believe. It looks like it's down to 7. So you've got the sharper side is definitely the Giants here, plus the 8 that they got early on. It's like I said, now down to 7. The public is obviously all over the Saints here. It's the return home. Um, they're 2-1 now, and to be honest, I don't trust Jameis Winston. Um, if you look at his numbers in the first 3 games, I don't believe he's actually thrown for over 200 yards. So I expect Barkley to have a solid game and Jones to have a solid game as well on the ground and both through the air. One player prop that I do like for those of you that like to bet the anytime touchdown score, I have a fantasy model that I've used the last few years that's been pretty successful with uh, anytime touchdown scores in Marquez Callaway, plus 230 on FanDuel. Anytime touchdown score for those of you that like to bet those. So I personally don't play a lot of these, but I will from time to time. So it's not an official play, but I'm going to share just some guys tomorrow that I like to potentially score touchdowns. Moving on to the next game, you've got the Chiefs versus the Eagles. And I think it's definitely fair to say that the Chiefs are suffering from a Super Bowl hangover. They're 0-3 against the spread. They're 1-2 on the year. And it's also worth noting that since November of last year, November 8th, the Chiefs are 1-12-1 ATS. As we go into this game, the Chiefs need a win to try to get things going for this year. The Eagles come into this game after being embarrassed by the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Can we please look to give Miles Sanders the ball more than 2 times in this game against the Chiefs? The Chiefs have proven that their run defense is awful this year. Every team that they've played so far, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Chargers have had their way on the ground with them, and it should be no different with the Eagles. But they have to get back to running the ball. I think in that Monday night game, it just seemed like every time they were out, they were in shotgun, and it wasn't like they were playing from behind. They ran the ball a ton the week before, and it was almost like they felt like they needed to pass the ball a ton the next week against Dallas, and it just didn't work out. You've got to be able to establish the run to set up the pass. And looking at Mahomes this year, just on the sidelines, body language, something just doesn't look right with him. I don't know what that is, but he looks much different than he did, last year and even the year before. The Chiefs will obviously be a popular money line play in the parlays as well as the spread. Chiefs -7. Like I said, that's going to be a popular parlay play. It's going to be a popular teaser play. This could be a game where I really think if you're looking to bet it, maybe you take, the Chiefs -13.5 plus 180, -16.5, maybe plus the 250. I think that this is a game where the Chiefs either win by 21 plus or they lose outright. I really don't think that number of 7 comes into play. In fact, I think you maybe look at an alternate total in this game. Moving on to the next game, Texans versus the Bills. This game, on paper, appears that it'll be a blowout. Davis Mills, the quarterback for Houston, looked terrible in the Thursday night game, and Buffalo coming off of a huge win against Washington where they just buried him from the very beginning, and it was never really a game. In this game, Buffalo's laying, I believe, 16.5, 17 currently. Oh, okay. We're all the way up to 17.5. So Buffalo -17.5. At a first glance, like I said, the Bills ought to be able to do whatever they want. They really ought to be able to name the score. But one thing to point out is the Bills have Kansas City on deck. And, if you remember last year, they lost both of those games to Kansas City at Buffalo, and then they lost the AFC Championship game at Kansas City. I think that this could be a spot where Buffalo is maybe looking ahead a little bit to some revenge against Kansas City. Maybe they come out a little bit flat. That 17.5 with the Texans is a very good number. I think that the back door could be open in this game. But one place that, I might look in this spot would be the first half. And, it looks like the best number that you can get without, maybe laying a ton of juice is, Texans +10. I think that that's a very solid bet. I'm not a first half player normally, but I think that the Texans +10 has some value here, simply because the Bills, I think, might come out a little bit flat. This is one of those games where they just want to get in, get out, get the win, and move on to Kansas City. In this game, as far as an anytime touchdown scorer goes, I like Cole Beasley +155, and that's currently on FanDuel. The next game, Panthers Cowboys. Uh, talked earlier, Dallas coming off of a blowout win Monday night against Philadelphia. They couldn't have looked better. They really screwed this game up for me. I was hoping to back Dallas in this spot, but I was also hoping that it was a little bit closer than what it was. I think the point spread now is 4.5 or 5. Yeah, it looks like 4.5. So, I think this line might have been maybe 3.5, but you've also got to take into account that Christian McCaffrey is going to be out. So this may have been the line regardless of what happened on Monday night. But from the very beginning, when I watched the Cowboys on Hard Knocks, this was a team that I was looking to fade all year long. And unfortunately, if you faded them the first 3 weeks, you're 0-3. And I did fade them against the Chargers. But that was a game that I feel like the Chargers got screwed in, and probably should have won that game. For whatever reason, Dallas is just finding a way to get it done this year. And one thing that I want to point out, this has only happened 15 times in NFL history. Teams who are underdogs in Week 4 of the NFL season are an astounding 1-14 against the spread. So this fits a couple of games later on that I'll address as well. But with that trend, you would have to take Dallas in this spot. And I mean, it definitely makes sense if you think about it, because if a team is 3-0 and they're an underdog, Vegas is obviously telling you, or the sports books are telling you that, maybe they're not as high on this team as, the general public is, because they are in fact undefeated. I don't have a player prop in this game, and like I said, based on the trend, I would have to lean to Dallas in this spot. Next game, Browns Vikings. This game I had been looking at for a couple of weeks, and I really thought that I was going to like the Vikings in this spot. But as the week kind of unfolded, I've kind of changed my pick. I kind of like Cleveland a little bit more in this spot. The Vikings were without Dalvin Cook last week. They got the win against Seattle, and it looks like he probably will be back this week. The Browns are coming off the win against the Bears, where the Bears had 47 yards of offense. That's not going to be the case in this game. The Vikings are going to be able to move the ball. The Browns are going to be able to move the ball. And I really just, like I said, I don't have a great angle on this game. I expect both teams to be able to move the ball. If I were looking at a bet in this game, I would probably look at the over, which I think is 51.5. Yeah, so I'd look at the over 51.5. Maybe buy that down to 51 just so you don't have the hook. That's -120 on Barstool and DraftKings. Talked about that last night. I don't like to take spreads where I'm looking at a favorite to cover the number, or I'm looking to take an over or an under. I like to have a whole number, just to be able to get a push if it happens to land on that number. One player prop in this game, Justin Jefferson, anytime touchdown score, +105 on FanDuel. One thing that I want to touch on real quick with the player props, all of these that I'll give out will be plus money. So, if you go to bet these and these numbers are moved, I'm not a fan of betting player props, and laying any type of juice. There are just too many things that can happen. I had a same game parlay the other night that looked really nice, and Chark went out 3 minutes into the game for Jacksonville. So, take the plus money if it's there on those props. Otherwise, just look to pass. The Colts and the Dolphins game. These teams are going in the wrong direction. No real surprise out of the Dolphins. I expected them to take a step back this year, but I am a little bit surprised about Indianapolis. I thought that they would be much better this year than they are. Wentz has struggled at times. They were blown out week 1 against Seattle. They were able to hang with the Rams. They didn't have an answer for Cooper Kupp. Ultimately lost that game by 3, but covered the spread. And then against Tennessee, they really didn't appear like they were ever in that game. just from watching it. I think the Colts team's very talented. Like I said, the Dolphins last year were red hot. They were 12-4 against the spread. If the Colts have any hope of winning the AFC South, this is definitely a game that they have to win. I believe that spread is Miami minus 1.5, 2 currently. It looks like it's not highlighted. Anyway, like I said, I think if I remember right, Miami's laying 2 here. 1.5 in some spots, minus 118, depending on where you shop. So I would be looking at the Colts in this spot plus the points. This is just a game that they have to win in order to, have any hope in in that AFC South, which will lead me to my next game. If the Colts can win this game, as crazy as it sounds, I think the Jets may have a chance against the Titans tomorrow. But a couple player props in the Colts Dolphins game. Anytime touchdown scores, Jonathan Taylor plus 115. That's on FanDuel, and then Jalen Waddle also anytime touchdown score plus 190. He had a ton of targets last week. He has pretty well all this year, so there's definitely some good value there with Waddle. As I just mentioned Titans and the Jets. The Jets were shut out last week. This is one of my favorite angles in the NFL when a team's shut out to back them the following week. I like it more so when they're shut out at home and go on the road. But nonetheless, since 2018, teams that are shut out, they're 10-3 against the spread the following week. This line opened Titans minus 7.5. It's down to 6 now. You've heard the news that AJ Brown's not going to play, which I think we all knew, but Julio Jones is also out now. So the Titans are very thin at the receiver position. The Titans are obviously going to be in every money line parlay, every teaser, especially with that number being 6 now. So, I look for a spot here where the Jets show up and, I don't want to say shock the world because I don't think the Titans are that good of a team either, but I think the Jets have a real chance to win this game, and I will definitely be on the Jets in this spot. It looks like in some books, at least when I was looking this morning, it was going to trend back up to Titans minus 6.5, where you might be able to buy that 7 and this be plus 120, or I'm sorry, minus 120 instead of minus 132. But we'll see where that line goes tomorrow. I think there'll be some more public money coming in on the Titans, and we may get that line to go up a little bit. In the offseason, the Titans didn't re-sign Corey Davis. They decided to go with Julio Jones, and so Corey Davis is now with the Jets. And I think the Jets get up for this game with him, and I think that they show up, have a chance to win, and I definitely like them to cover. Corey Davis, anytime touchdown, plus 225 on DraftKings is a player prop that I like in that particular game. The next game, Lions Bears, 2 teams that are terrible, and unfortunately, I like the Bears in this spot. They're coming off that performance where they only put up 47 yards of offense against the Browns. The Lions are coming off of a heartbreaker against the Ravens. They definitely should have won that game. All week long, Nagy said he doesn't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be Foles? Is it going to be Fields? Is it going to be Dalton? After last week's performance, I'm not sure that you can really start Fields, but a lot of that falls on Nagy, and he is just not the guy for this team when it comes to calling the offense. It's just that simple. Nagy is horrendous, and until they get rid of him, I think the Bears are going to struggle offensively, and they're going to need their defense to step up each and every game. The Lions, they have a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And, so I would love to see actually the Bears go with Dalton in this game. I think if they do, they can move the ball a little bit better down the field. But I think the defense for the Bears will be enough in this game. And I really think that we see a 2.5 tomorrow on the Bears. It was 2.5 this morning on DraftKings, minus 115. It's now minus 125. It's kind of been hovering around the 115 to 125 range, and then also that minus 2.5, minus 3. But I really like the Bears in this spot. I think they get a win here. And a couple player props: David Montgomery anytime touchdown plus 110 on DraftKings. TJ Hawkinson anytime touchdown plus 195 on FanDuel. The next game that we're going to look at is Washington and Tennessee, and I really don't have much to say about this game. I would just like to see both teams lose. I took Washington last week against Buffalo, and that did not pan out. And then I had the Giants against Atlanta, so both teams got me good last week. Couple player props: Kyle Pitts anytime touchdown. I think he gets his first touchdown in the game or in the season this year in the game against Washington. That's plus 230 on FanDuel, so there's some good value there. And then for Washington, Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, anytime touchdown, plus 125 on FanDuel. Like I said, no opinion on the spread, no opinion on the total. Hopefully they both lose, or maybe they can tie. Cardinals Rams was probably one of my favorite plays to start the week. That line opened LA Rams -6, and it is now down to 3.5 or 4, I believe. Okay, so 4.5. It was 3.5 this morning. It looks like it's gone back up to 4.5. So I do like seeing that. Get that public money back in there, driving up the line for us. I like Arizona in this spot. McVay's owned the Cardinals since he's come to the Rams. He's 8-0 all time against them since entering the league. But I just think this is a different Cardinals team. Kyler Murray is having an MVP season early on, and I just think that 4.5 is too many. I think the Cardinals win this game, so I'd like to get that number 4.5. I'm not going to lock it in until tomorrow morning. I like I said, I rarely lock plays in early. I do wish I would have grabbed 6 early on with this game, but I think Arizona wins this game outright. So the points will just be kind of a cushion. In this game, I like Christian Kirk anytime touchdown. He's plus 250 on FanDuel. He's really become a favorite target of Murray's, it appears, these last couple of weeks. And I think there's some good value plus 250 with Christian Kirk. Next NFL game, Seattle and San Francisco. Seattle comes into this game having lost at Minnesota. San Francisco comes into this game losing that heartbreaker against Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. And, I initially looked at the Niners in this spot. I like a team who lost both games to Seattle last year, and they're now the favorite the following year. And I think that the defense for the Niners is better than what they showed last week. It appeared like they kind of settled down in the second half. Seattle has the firepower to put up points. And like I said, I was initially on San Francisco in this game, minus the 3 when it opened. It's down to 2.5, depending on where you shop and what you're looking to lay there. It looks like now you can even get them, -1.5, -120. If I were taking San Francisco in this spot, just based solely on where the line's at right now, I'd probably just lay the 130 on the money line. I do like San Francisco based on the spot, the revenge from last year, but I'm not sure this is a game that I'll actually bet when it comes down to tomorrow. Ravens Broncos. This has a chance to be a great game on Sunday afternoon in that 4:25 spot. Now the Ravens are coming off of a record-breaking field goal from Justin Tucker to beat the Lions last week. The Ravens have had emotional wins against the Chiefs and then obviously against the Lions. So back-to-back weeks, 2 emotional wins. And, it really wasn't a surprise that the Ravens struggled in that game, after beating the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, a team that they had obviously never beaten. With Lamar Jackson there, he was 0-3 against them heading into that game. Teddy Two Gloves and the Broncos are 3-0. They've beaten teams with a combined record of 0-9 this season. Obviously, you can only play who is on your schedule, but this will definitely be the toughest opponent that the Broncos have seen so far. Um, I I've been back and forth on this game all week. I like the Ravens early on, um, and then I found myself kind of liking Denver yesterday a little bit. And probably as it stands right now, I'd have to look at Denver. I think that everybody expects Baltimore to go in there and take it to Denver. The media has been hyping up the fact that the Broncos have beaten teams who are combined 0-9, and this is a spot here where when you look at the spread, I believe it's kind of been all over the place. Ravens -1 now. Before that, or a couple days ago, Broncos were laying 1.5, and it looks really easy to tease the Ravens in this spot. Um, this is a game that I'm probably going to stay away from. It'll be good to watch. We can really kind of see what Denver's about, and we can really kind of see what the Ravens are really about. I mean, you could argue that the Ravens should be 0-3. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't fumble that ball, the Chiefs probably kick the field goal and win that game. Player prop for this one, Marquise Brown, anytime touchdown score, +175, and that's on DraftKings. I talked about this one in my last video a couple of days ago. Steelers, Packers. This game a couple of years ago would have been the marquee game of the day. Packers come into this game, they're laying 6.5 against the Steelers. This line just makes no sense to me. I thought it should have been closer to 9.5 or 10, but Green Bay is a popular public team, and you can guarantee that everybody is going to have the Packers in their teasers, in their money line parlays, and they're going to expect them to win this game going away. Media has been absolutely ruthless to Ben Roethlisberger, as well as Najee Harris. Saying he's not ready for the NFL as a running back. Big Ben's arm is shot. And this same group of people, I mean, loved Pittsburgh after they beat Buffalo in Week 1. So it's funny to see the people flip flop week in and week out in the NFL, but it creates value in the betting market. So in this game, I really initially when I looked to bet this game, I was looking at Green Bay, and I thought, man, if I can get them 6.5, I mean, they ought to blow Pittsburgh out. But the more I thought about it, it just looks too easy to take Green Bay, and I think Green Bay loses this game just based solely on the line, solely on the media. I think the Steelers go into Lambeau, and I think they find a way to win this game. I like Najee Harris, anytime touchdown scorer. I think he gets one against Green Bay, and Green Bay has Cincinnati next week. And honestly, I would love to see Green Bay lose this game, and it would definitely put some value in taking them the following week at Cincinnati. So, upset of the day, maybe outside of the Cardinals beating the Rams, Steelers over the Packers. I think there's a real chance that happens. And then Sunday night game. You could go on and on about this one. There's a lot to say about it. Tom Brady, he's coming home, or he's coming back to New England for the first time. Does he need Bill Belichick? Does Bill Belichick need Tom Brady? Right now it looks like, Hoodie could use Tom Brady with the way things have been going. This line prior to this week was Tampa Bay -3.5. Tampa Bay lost to the Rams, and now suddenly this line is 6.5, 7. The public's just betting this game like they know the outcome. I heard an odds maker on Bet Online, Dave Mason. He said this is going to be the biggest decision in the history of their sports book. Not for the week, not for the year, in the history of the sports book. And a lot of times when the books need a side, they get it. And I did a little bit of research on this game. Just trying to find some different edges in it, and I really can't find one. However, when Favre went back to Lambeau as a member of the Minnesota Vikings, he made his return there, and I heard a soundbite of him this week where he talked about the players were so laser focused that game. He had never seen that before from a group of players for one NFL game, and they wanted to win that game for Favre. And I think that Tampa Bay will probably, feel the same. And, ironically enough, before Minnesota played um, Green Bay in that Monday night game back in 2009, I believe it was, they actually lost against the Steelers the week before. So I think there was a look ahead spot for Minnesota in that game. And I actually think that there was a look ahead spot last week for Tampa Bay. They lost to the Rams. That score was very misleading, 34-24. They got a late touchdown. Tampa Bay was dominated in that game, at least from what I watched. I think the question will be, will Mac Jones keep the Patriots in the game? Um, Tampa Bay has a solid run defense, and the Patriots have not ran the ball very well this year. They've lost James White. He's not a big runner for them, but he catches those passes out of the backfield, kind of a safety blanket for Mac Jones. He's out for the year. At the end of the day, I think this game comes down to the wire. I think there'll be a storyline that comes out of it. Brady leads the Buccaneers in a game-winning drive against his former team, or Mac Jones leads New England leads New England on a game-winning drive against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. This will be a game that I'm just going to watch. I have no betting interest in this one. I can't seem to find an edge. I can make a case for both sides, and so I'll just be watching this game. But there are two player props that I like. I like Damian Harris to score a touchdown at any time, plus 130 on DraftKings, and then Chris Godwin anytime touchdown, plus 130 on FanDuel. So those are my thoughts for the Sunday games. Be on the lookout for a video to drop tomorrow. I'm going to go over this Raiders Chargers game. This is probably going to be my biggest play of the week. And I really, really like a side in this one. So stay tuned, and I will be back tomorrow. Thanks, guys.